Looking back 1934, a peek into the past. School in 1934. When Kit was in school in the early 1930s, students were separated by grade into individual classrooms, just as they are today. They sat in sturdy desks that were nailed to the floor in neat rows, and they stood every morning to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Boys and girls formed orderly lines to go in and out for recess. Classrooms were quieter, and teachers were stricter than they are today. Children in Kit's time studied many of the same subjects students do today: reading, spelling, arithmetic, geography, and history. Special subjects such as art, music, and physical education were taught by teachers who visited individual classrooms once or twice a week. One of the special weekly subjects in the Cincinnati school that Kit attended was penmanship or handwriting. Report cards in the 1930s often included grades for behavior and attitude. Cincinnati students learned penmanship by the Palmer method and received special merit pins as they improved. However, the Great Depression that had started in 1929 was beginning to affect every part of society, including schools. As the Depression deepened and more people lost their jobs and homes, schools started having serious money troubles too. By 1932, 30 years into the Depression and the year Kit's story begins, many schools could no longer afford new books and supplies. In some schools, broken windows were now replaced and roofs started to leak. To save money, school boards canceled special programs such as kindergartens and shortened the school year by making school holidays longer and closing schools early in the year. Some states had so little money that the school year lasted only 3 months, and especially depressed areas such as the rural South, where a lack of rain caused many farms to fail, schools simply closed down when the money ran out. Elementary textbooks from the 1920s and early 1930s. Many seasons without rain left fields and farms buried in dust. Families packed all their belongings and left their dying farms in search of a better life. By April 1934, nearly 20,000 schools had closed completely, turning away more than 1 million students. Many of those students and their families left the dying farms of the South and the Midwest for the rich agricultural fields of California. There, parents hoped to find good jobs and a new life for their children. Instead, most ended up as poorly paid temporary farm workers. Families traveled from field to field to pick whatever crop was ready for harvest, and children had little more than a few weeks of schooling at a time. Instead of going to school, this girl worked in a cotton field where she had to fill her long sack with the cotton she picked. Before the Depression hit, the average teacher's salary was about $155 per month, or almost $8 per day. To save money without closing schools, some states cut teachers' salaries. In Iowa, teachers were paid only $40 per month, or about $2 per day. Teachers in Chicago protested salary and school cuts. But even after salary cuts, some schools didn't have enough money to pay their teachers. Many teachers went without pay for months. Schools in some southern states revived the old practice of boarding around their teachers, giving them rooms and meals with the families of their students in place of a salary. To further reduce expenses, principals were dismissed and more students were crowded into each classroom, so fewer teachers were needed. Many married women teachers were fired so single women or men with families could have their jobs. When programs were cut, other teachers lost their jobs. Tragedy struck the Cincinnati schools in 1932 when a penmanship teacher killed himself after learning that the school board had eliminated his citywide handwriting program and most of his salary. Teachers worried when students stopped coming to school because it often meant that the family was in deep financial trouble or had moved away to look for work. Teachers knew that children sometimes stayed out of school because their shoes and clothes were too worn or they had no money for supplies. They also knew that during the cold winter months, children sometimes took turns going to school because their family had only one presentable coat. Crowded classrooms made learning hard for students and discipline a challenge for teachers. At a food drive, people sometimes receive fresh produce, eggs, and cheese in addition to bread or canned foods. Like Kit's teacher, many teachers coordinated food and clothing drives in their communities. Teachers work with the Red Cross, the Salvation Army, or local charities to help those in need. They also contributed to funds that collected money for their students and their students' families. Dedicated teachers did whatever they could to help students get a good education as they cope with the harsh realities of lost jobs, daily hunger, and America's uncertain future. A bread line in New York City. Teachers went to great lengths to help students forget their troubles for a few hours. This class's teacher made sure everyone in the band had costumes.